Nobody wants war. I'm not a man who likes war, wants war. I have shunned violence all my life. But I have a question for you. Had Hitler been stopped in 1936, 37, 38, how many people's lives would have been saved? And I'll ask you again. Had Ahmadinejad been stopped in 2008, how many millions of people would be spared? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You realize this is no longer an esoteric existential question designed for a university audience? You're living in a reality that's going to shock and rock your world very soon. It doesn't matter whether you want it to happen. It doesn't matter how nice you are to the whales. It doesn't matter how nice you are to your cat and dog. It doesn't matter how nice a person you think you are. It doesn't matter how many turkey and ham sandwiches you've given to the homeless. It doesn't matter how many times you've gone to an Obama rally. I am telling you, like Linnaeus, the pilot seer of the Argonauts, I am on the highest mast of the good ship America. I see farther than anyone in the American media. And we are going to see a war with Iran. The only question is who will do it. And then the question is, what do they do in response? And so if you don't think it's going to happen, I disagree with you. And if you do think it's going to happen, what are you doing to prepare for it? And we can talk about that scenario, by the way. They claim that they'll sink ships in the Strait of Hormuz and tie up the world's transit of oil. Well, they may get away with sinking some ships. I guess with the admirals we have running the Fifth Fleet, it's possible for them to sink ships because they'd have to consult a book maybe 500 pages long before they could fire a 50 caliber round. And then they'd have to go to their MBA manual, the admirals, and call somebody in Tallahassee who may be on the golf links with a future defense contractor to see what they can do on the ships. We no longer have Admiral Halsey on the ships. We no longer have Admiral Ballsy on the ships. We have Admiral Milquetoast running the Navy. So I don't doubt that Ahmadinejad could sink ships in the Straits of Hormuz and tie up the oil supplies. No matter how much American firepower is there, it's only as good as the man willing to fire the rocket or launch the jets. And I don't think we have anyone willing to do that anymore. I think they have to go to too many MBAs sitting there with uniforms in Pensacola or Tallahassee, wherever they have the hidden compound, to get the go-ahead to fire so much as a shot. And that's very, very pathetic. It's also very dangerous. But there are many things that could be done to preserve the oil supply. Even if he did tie up the oil shipments out of Iran, he'd only starve his own people who would overthrow the rest of the mullahs. In other words, it would have a counter effect on the mullahs in Iran. The people would rise up and kill them. Do you think the Iranian people want to live in the 15th century? You think the women want to go backwards? They hate this guy and the throwback stinking mullahs there. They hate them. They hate all of them. They were a modern, advanced people, the Iranian people. They had shaken off the theocracy, and then Jimmy Carter made the world safe for theocracy by overthrowing the Shah of Iran. Jimmy Carter was the man who first did this. He's the man who should be in The Hague for having unleashed the virus of radical Islam around the world. I know the entire story. It was Jimmy Carter with his do-gooderness who said that the Shah was a bad man and evil. Well, he may have been bad and evil, but he was dealing with worse and more evil people. That's how he kept them under control, the radical Islamists. And once Jimmy Carter undermined the Shah of Iran and drove him in exile, who came back? The chief virus, Ayatollah Khomeini, the chief virus, the number one cockroach of radical Islam, came back and spread his fecal matter across the entire nation of Iran and spread radical Islam around the globe. It was Jimmy Carter, my friends. And why am I telling you this? Because Obama is a student of Jimmy Carter. The entire left wing in the Democrat Party believes in Jimmy Carter's philosophy. And so this appeasement will only make it worse for us. Now, if you want to get on all fours and pray to Mecca, be my guest. But I'm not joining you. I'm not getting on all fours and praying to Mecca. Not today and not tomorrow. And there's probably 30 million Americans who don't want to get on their knees and pray to Mecca. No matter how many of you liberals want to capitulate, we'll be the ones to cut your hair off after it's all over, not to have our hair cut off, if you know what I'm talking about. You know, watch the black and white movies of World War II and how the collaborators were treated after the fall of Nazism in France. Because that's you being ashamed. It's not us. You are the collaborators with radical Islam, not us. Your wires are crossed from too many years of pot. Your wires are crossed from too many years of reading the wrong books and focusing on the wrong things. That's why a man like Gergen gets up and says, basically, in more words than one, that it's the Jews who want to drag us into war with Iran, and gets away with it. No one says a word. Even Wolf Blitzer. Wolf Blitzer, who is Jewish and of Israeli descent, says nothing, because Wolf Blitzer has the guts of a department store dummy, which is why he does so well on CNN. They like department store dummies on television. The bigger a department store dummy you are, or shall we say a crash dummy who can make a tie, goes very, very well with the corporate television networks today. So the crash dummy was of Jewish descent, and he says nothing about David Gergen's slam against the Jews, saying, you Jews want to drag us into World War III, basically. He said it in nice words. They've gotten very smart now, the Buchanan, brigades. Now it's Hitler wasn't really out to take over the world. Buchanan's latest writings. I've never, years ago I was warned about Pat Buchanan. I always defended Buchanan. I said, look, I don't agree with him on certain things, but he's not what you say. Guess what? He is what they said. I think the guy is exactly what they said he was. He has now become an overt apologist for Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich. In more words than one, he's doing it politely. He's a very clever man. And I had Pat on the show for many years. He'll never be on the show again. He gets crazier by the column. It's as though the real man is coming out. It's the portrait of Dorian Buchanan. The real inner man is coming out. And he's basically saying that Hitler really didn't want to take over Europe. Hitler didn't want to invade Czechoslovakia. Hitler didn't want to invade Poland. Hitler didn't want to take over Britain. Hitler never threatened America. He doesn't know history. He's reinventing history. In other words, he's doing the very things he accused the left of doing, which is being a historical revisionist. He's revising history. On top of it all, he's urinating on the graves of the Americans buried at Normandy and the Americans buried around the world who fought in World War II to stop Hitler. In essence, Pat Buchanan is urinating on their graves and on their memory, saying that they were not the greatest generation, that they shouldn't have fought the war. Read his columns. It's astounding to me. So when I say to you today on the Savage Nation that Bush's pacifism is making the world safe for theocracy, and I say that the only solution is a military solution because we've tried diplomacy for 5 years now, 5 straight years. And the only thing these radical Islamists know to do during diplomacy is to rearm and make themselves stronger. The Jews are going through the same thing in Israel. They have a peace with Hamas. Hamas is getting more weapons from Iran and Russia, and probably from our dear friends in China as well. Our glowing friends in Beijing are probably supplying them with the missile technology. They're rearming. And what's Israel doing? Tell me what they're doing. Nightclubs, beaches, drinking a beer, having a schmaltz herring. What are they doing in Israel? Are they crazy? When Israel gave back Gaza, I was the one saying on this radio show, no, 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 no. They're going to use it against you. And I had you, the listener, call me and say, you're wrong, Michael. You said to me, oh, no, the Palestinians will happily take the $7 or $8 million that American Jewish liberals sent for them to take over the greenhouses the Jews gave the Palestinians to grow orchids and roses and tomatoes and export them to Brussels. I said, you people crazy? That's never going to happen. The next day, the greenhouses that the Jews were forced to abandon by Jewish police who beat up settlers who had been there for 30 some odd years and made them disinter their relatives who were buried in the sands of Gaza, made them rip out the Jewish cemeteries and transport the dead fathers and the dead grandfathers, Jew against Jew, to show you the madness of an autoimmune disease when it hits the political system. This is an autoimmune disease that the West is going through. It's an AIDS of the mind. It's an AIDS of the soul. It's an AIDS of the psyche. You're witnessing an AIDS epidemic inside the psyche of the West. And as you know, when the HIV virus invades an organism, opportunistic infections arise. The opportunistic infection that we are witnessing that is arising as we are imploding through this autoimmune disease, the opportunistic infection that is taking over is radical Islam. I'll be right back.
Savage.
Care about whether or not Iran attacks Israel. If Iran does attack Israel, what should the United States do, is the question. 1-800-449-8255 is the phone number. MichaelSavage.com is the website where you can read my brilliant editorial, Making the World Safe for Theocracy, which will be stolen probably has already been ripped off. But as Lao Tzu said, it doesn't matter who takes your ideas, as long as your ideas are talked about. Well, that was then. This is now. There were no lawyers in Lao Tzu's time.